Okay, so going after the crankshaft pulley bolt. These things can be a real mother. So I have a 3/4 inch 19mm socket on there with the crankshaft pulley tool that's holding the crankshaft pulley on a 1/2 inch breaker bar up against the suspension right here. And then here's my 3/4 inch breaker bar. I have it resting on a 6-ton floor jack. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. See if I can get this thing broken loose. You'll know when it breaks loose because it's going to be a big old snap. It's going to sound like you broke something. So I tried my 1/2 inch Milwaukee gun. Didn't do nothing. Didn't do nothing. I think I broke it loose. It was very uneventful. I'm gonna reset my breaker bar. Yeah, got it free. Ooh, I was expecting a lot more than that, but came out nice and easy. So you'll see my 3/4 inch extensions have yellow paint on them. I just do that to all my tools. You know, if any tool company is listening, Snap-on, Matco, Mac, Harbor Freight, start making tools in other colors besides black, please. Because it's really annoying when you leave a tool, you know, underneath the hood because it's black and it blends in with everything else. So, just saying, it'd be nice to have some tools in other colors than black. There we go. There's the infamous crankshaft pulley bolt. This should come right off, which it does. Nothing to it. Rubber is good. So there you go. There's a crankshaft pulley. It's keyed. You can see it right there. With another woodruff key, kind of like the camshaft. This rubber is intact. If it wasn't, it'd be best to replace it. I made a video where I showed how you can glue one together, and I got all kinds of hate comments on there. But you gotta do what you gotta do. There's a woodruff key. You can't see it. It's right up here. Back underneath the Honda, I put the oil cooler back in place. So you got the hoses back in, brand new hoses. This hose over here. It's best if you start the 90-degree elbow one, then do the curved one to the engine block, and then the 90-degree elbow onto the coolant pipe up there. And then you bring in the cooler itself, connect it to the top, connect it over here. I use WD-40 on the inside of the hoses to help them slide on better. And then, like I said before, make sure that the clips are right behind that ring. Okay, to get the O-ring on, it kept falling out, slipping out. So what I did, I got some spray adhesive, sprayed the O-ring on some cardboard on the bench, and then let it get tacky a little bit, 5 minutes. Put it on the back of the oil cooler, and then it stayed in place, and I brought the bolt back in. So you got to kind of manipulate the oil cooler to get the bolt back in, not really hard, and then just tighten it down, just snugged it up with a 30mm socket. Everything's back into place. I do need to put the head back on. Well, I guess I can take the timing belt components off and then put the head back on, but I do need the head back on before I set up the timing belt. So let's get going. All right, got the timing belt off, got the balancer belt off, took the water pump out, got the lower cam gear off, or lower crank gear off. I still need to get the little one off. But what I need to do here, so right here, you have the balancer shaft. I need to change that seal out. So it does have the update that there is a keeper in there. It's really, really hard to see. I'll show you that when I get it out. There's one 10mm bolt that holds it in, and then I'll stick a screwdriver right down in that hole right there, break the nut free, pop this off, pop this gear off, and go in there and change the seal out. And then after I do all that, I'll put the head back on, torque everything down. I'm going to use the same head bolts. I'm going to put some white lithium grease on the threads and on the top washer so everything goes down nice and smooth and nice like. Let me break this free and I'll show you how to replace that balancer shaft seal. Oh no. thank you for sticking around. This is part 6 of this F22 rebuild on this Honda Accord. We are ready to put the head on, so take this towel off, show you what's been going on. In the previous video, I went around, cleaned all the surface off, just got a razor blade, cleaned the surface of the block off, cleaned the intake off, all the old gasket. I'm going to put the guide pins back in. They look like this. Just clean them up a little bit. One goes there, the other one goes there. Okay. For the most part, the head is ready. The only couple things I need to move over are 2 sensors that sit on the passenger side right over here. I'll do that once the head is installed. I already cleaned the holes where the bolts go. What you want to do, get yourself some brake cleaner. Spray some brake cleaner down the hole. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. Just you spray that down there, and then you get yourself some compressed air from an air compressor. Hopefully you guys have one. You just get your air gun. As you do it, you put the brake cleaner down, and so you don't get any residual or oil or whatever is down there. Cover it up. Blow air down into each individual hole. All right. Just go around to all 10 holes, and then you're ready to rock and roll. Here's a head bolt for them. They're ready to rock and roll. I'm going to put some white lithium grease on the threads right here. And I'm also going to put it between here and the washer, between the head and the washer, and on the bottom of the washer as well, right there. Okay? Just keep in mind, you have a bolt, a head bolt that's taller than all of them. It sits right here in the middle. Okay? Because on the head itself, there's a raised portion of the head, and that one taller bolt goes right in the middle right there. The engine is on TDC, on cylinder number 1, on compression. So I know it's on top dead center. That's where you want it to be. The head is also on top dead center with the cam gear up. So it is ready to rock and roll. I'll bring in my head gasket. When you bring in your head gasket, try not to touch it. You want it as clean as possible. It's a Fel-Pro head gasket that I'm using. Just doing some last minute cleaning right here. Anything I don't like or any grime or grit, get that off. There's your head gasket part number, 9958 PT-1 Fel-Pro head gasket. So I'll put a link down in the description below where you guys can pick this up on Amazon. Well, there comes my head gasket. Okay, so there's a nut right here. You can see up. So obviously it'd sit like this. One thing you don't want to do wrong is put this thing on upside down, because if you do, you run the risk of covering your cooling jackets, and that's something you want to do. So guide pins are in place. Double check all your holes. Everything looks good. There's all the holes for the head bolts. These are your cooling jacket right here, here. You're lined up here, 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 and here. So just double check everything. All right. Now bring the head back in. Let me move this intake as far back as possible. MS95612 has a manifold gasket in it. Once again, I'll put a link down in the description below where you guys can pick it up. There it is. Nice and pretty. It actually sits like this. Okay. This little coolant jacket sits down the bottom left-hand corner. Have the intake manifold gasket on the head side, and I'll slide everything in all at once. Okay, have the gasket, the intake manifold gasket on the head already. So as I slide everything in, it'll be already made it up to the intake manifold. Have the head gasket in place. Make sure this is in that position. Have my dowel pins in. Those are ready to rock and roll. Now just one quick move. Slide the head in. You'll know when it goes in. It'll drop in real nice like. Bring in the intake manifold. Come on, baby. Okay, got that on. Now just bring in, move the head around a little bit. There we go. So I had to slide around a little bit. Got the intake on. Got the head on. Now I'll get a mirror and I'll look down here on this side, this side, this side, and that side, and make sure that the head gasket is correctly seated. Yep, everything looks good. So I'm going to start running down the head bolts, and I'll show you the torque spec for them. Just make sure your long one goes there in the center. You'll see it when you get there. The bump on the head. Actually, let me show it to you. So right there, it's raised up more than any of the other ones. That's a normal one, normal. Right there in the center, it's raised up, so that's where the long head bolt goes. So just make note of that, but everything else is good to go. So I'll put the white lithium grease onto the head bolts, run them down, and I'll bring you back when I'm about to torque them down. Let me show you where I put this white lithium grease on the head bolts so that everything goes in nice and good like, because you don't want to get down there and start torquing everything down. Then you hear this creak, crunch. That's not what you want. You don't want to hear any kind of sound from the head bolts getting torqued down. So I'll put the grease here on the bottom of the head, so it sandwiches between the washer and the head. And I'll put it on the washer itself, like that. And I coat the threads like this. Okay, once you do that, just roll around, get it all into the threads, right? And I'll put it on the shank right here as well, and then it's ready to be put into the engine, because you want this nice and lubricated, so that when you start torquing everything down, you don't get any creaks or crunches with the head bolt when you're torquing everything down. This is a 3-step process to torque these head bolts down. You start at, the first torque is 29 foot-pounds, second one is 51 foot-pounds, and then it's 72 foot-pounds. And there's a specific torque sequence as well. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. So I have my torque wrench all set up with my 10 millimeter or my 14 millimeter socket. It's a deep 14 millimeter impact socket on a 1/2 inch torque wrench. Set to 29 foot-pounds. So the first one is right here. Start feeling it grab. You want to come in with one big nice swing motion to have it click into place. There you go. Next, number 2. This will be your tall one. Okay, it's tightening up. One nice swing motion when it actually torques down. There you go. 1, 2. Now I'll fast forward the rest of them. You see me do 3, 4 through 10. Okay, so there's the first round of torque, which is 29 foot-pounds. One thing you want to remember is don't put any extensions in here. The shorter you can have this closest to the head of the torque wrench, the better. Obviously, I can't put a short 14 millimeter socket here, so that's why I'm using a long one. But don't put any extensions between the head and the bolt. The shorter you can make it, the better. The better accuracy you'll have when you torque these things down. So next I'll go to 51 foot-pounds. Start again with start at bolt number 1. Okay, there's a second round of torque. Now on the third round, which is 72 foot-pounds. Once again, just make everything goes nice and easy. You don't want to hear your bolts binding up at all. That's why I put the white lithium grease on there. And then just when you're swinging it, go nice and slow and steady. You'll hear it click to go on the next one. At the final 72 foot-pounds, I'll do it once, and I'll go around and check everything again. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, and that was the final 72 foot-pounds. I'll go around right now and check all of them in the same sequence. But I won't bore you with that. Just go around. You know the sequence now. Just double check everything. Make everything's good to go at 72 foot-pounds. All right, stick around for part 7. Got the head back on. Going to show you the next one. Got the sensors back in. Going to bring in the cooling line right here. This is part of the heater hose. Heater element, I should say. Heater core element. Going to bring the thermostat housing back in. But yeah, stick around. I'll show you guys how to do all that.